My man, absolutely delighted to have you here
Gav.
on the Modern Warrior podcast. And you are a man who has overcome many battles in your own life, and you've become an inspirational figure to many people out there due to the adversities that you faced in your own life. We can speak about some of those things today. I know there's a couple of those things you want to park and not tie up your identity to it, and I can appreciate that too. Uh, Although in saying that, there are people out there who are in dire straits at the moment, who are struggling, who are suffering, and hearing your story and the things you've overcome to get to this point will give them the lightning bolt to get up and make a move in order to improve their lives, be it a physical thing or be it an emotional thing or be it both. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. And before I started this conversation, before I even reached out to you, I've been following your content for some time, and I like to go through your content and get to know the person you are and the message you're trying to deliver. One thing that struck me, or one thing that really stood out for me, was something you mentioned a while ago about pattern interrupts and maybe the importance of interrupting your patterns. And my first question to you is based on that, in terms of your own patterns in your life, and what were certain patterns of behavior that you were following that you needed to break in order to reach a new and better level in your own life?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, definitely jumping right into the deep end. I like it. I will step back and say, like, yeah, so you'll probably put this in the intro, but it's, I'm stage 4 lung cancer, dealing with that. And that, when you refer to not identifying with it, I have no problem talking about it when it comes to something like this. I just did a keynote yesterday in Vegas, and, I use that as the baseline in which we're working from. It's just an example point, right? What I was tired of doing was on Instagram and LinkedIn, where I'm at, I was tired of talking about it and always talking about it, right? And so from now on, it's not about the cancer. It's about what it's showing me, right? About what it's giving me, so that I can teach others. So no problem talking about it in this sense, but simply as a sense of, I have this is what the result is, versus cancer that and cancer this and all this stuff, right? Because a lot of people have it harder than I do, not only in cancer, but in just life in general. So I didn't want to make it about that, but more or less about, what do we do about that? Because
What
everybody's
was
dealing
the
with
what was the reason for that? I
so
mean,
there's
this was a story that you followed for a long time in your life, and was there an epiphany? Was there a trigger point where you thought, you know what, no more?
Yeah, I mean, like, think about it. The whatever you discuss, whatever you talk about, whatever you think about, whatever it is, right? It becomes ingrained into who you are. And the more I talked about cancer and all this stuff, the more, like, it just became a part of me. And so the easiest way to look at it is this. It's a weird visual, because I haven't figured out anything else. But, like, yeah, I think about, like, a big round plate, and then I think about the bottle top of something. Like, I was thinking hot sauce, Cholula specifically, because I like thinking about Cholula. But, like, that's a small bottle, that's a small cap. And cancer was all of a sudden the big plate, and then the rest of my life was this little cap. And I was like, this is not a way to live. And so the more I talked about it, the more that plate expanded. And I was like, I don't want that. So I wanted to reverse it. The plate is my life and the things I learned because of that little bottle cap of cancer, right? So that's kind of how you look at it. You put the cap on the plate and you're like, which one is cancer? Which one's your life? And I wanted my life to be the plate and the cancer to be the cap, right? So what I do with my life, I want it to be the dominant thing, and not cancer, the dominant thing.
So
It's just an element
it's
of my life,
more
and that's it.
deriving the lessons from that incredibly traumatic experience, more so
Yes,
than using the experience itself as a way to determine your
that's
life. Yeah,
the
yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's the experience, that small little experience, because we have lots of small little experiences. This one just happens to be cancer, right? So it's kind of like, it's just that small little experience. Feels big sometimes, but it's just that small little experience is going to just give me some insight into the
Yeah.
bigger plate of life
So this is a certain pattern that you
versus the
need to
other way
break when we
around.
talk about pattern interrupts.
That was one of them. That was one of them for like 17 months, right? It's like cancer dominated my life and the life with my wife. And it's just like, it sucks. It's like, just live, it was like, just live your life. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying, and it's like, so that's why I'll reference it because it's a reference point, but it's everything else that matters. It's not like, oh, my cancer, that's kind of how I look at it. I got a lot of good. I put that video up of like not identifying, and I got incredible comments. And then I had one person send me a message and basically be like, "Chad, I think you disappointed a lot of people. I lost 1,000 people in a day." And I was like, I was expecting it because I'm a marketer. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, I need you to unfollow me, and
Yeah.
that's the instant like hook, right? And it's true. And if you unfollow me, then it's like I'm sorry if I'm not like going to talk about this. What I'm talking about is like, well, what can you derive? What's the message you get from this thing, right? That's the thing, and that's what I want to go with because yes, cancer is my adversity, but somebody else has you have something else, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Like people have a lot of their shit, and the question is, are you going to take that message and do something with it? Or are you just going to sit there on the message? That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. It sounds harsh sometimes to people because they just want to sit. And I was like this for a long time. Self-pity. I was just in self-pity the whole time. And I'm like, that's not how you move
Yeah.
forward. That's not how you
How did
continue to
you
build no matter what's happening.
how did you begin to shift from the victim mentality that this sort of diagnosis brings? And of course, that's not subjective to you. I believe that anybody going through such a traumatic experiences that would fall into the default of victimhood. And of course, this, as you know, renders you powerless and gives you a sense that you don't have control over the problem and the issue. So, how did you begin to shift that and to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, I it's funny, like when you get something like this, it forces you to learn something new. It just forces you to learn something new and whatever that is, right? And so for me now it's coming down to neuroscience, frankly. It's neuroscience. And that's the high level term. The scientific term. The layperson's term in my head is, how do my thoughts affect my life? Right? It's really simple at the end of the day. And so I've learned a lot about this stuff, and it's simple, right? Like your thoughts. So you have your thoughts, and then you have this thing called psychoneuroimmunology, which means it's the study of the chemical reactions that your thoughts create. So every thought you have creates a chemical in your body, and if it's a good thought, quote unquote, it's a dopamine. If it's a bad thought or whatever, it's adrenaline and cortisol. Okay. And so when I started learning about this, I'm like, well, I can't afford adrenaline and cortisol, so I should figure out how to switch it to dopamine. And so I started learning about this idea, this neuroscience of neuroplasticity, right? Wiring and firing. It's like, how do you prune bad neural nets in the brain? How do you sprout better ones to adjust your chemical balance? And so, like, as I did this, I mean, I was doing this, I do it 2 to 3 hours a day, right? To help me withstand some of this. I mean, 10 months ago, I wasn't even functional, right? I couldn't really do the things I wanted to do. And 10 months of practice, and like, next thing you know, like, I'm up on stage yesterday talking as if there's nothing wrong. Yet, shit's getting worse for me, right? Like, that's what's crazy. Like, the things are getting worse technically. And, but I'm still here. I'm still here, and I'm what my wife calls Charger Chad, right? I'm just charging stuff. But that's only because I spent the time pruning bad thought patterns that were undermining not only my healing process, but my day to day. And so when you think about the fact that I spent this time inside this mental work, so there's no like one point where it like flipped. It's not like, oh, there it is, right? It's just this continuous process. And like I look back 10 months and I see where I was and I'm like, holy smokes. And it's just small little changes, small improvements over time. And then you can see the big difference. So there's no real like thing. I mean, I think probably the trigger point was learning that the brain instructs the body. And once I learned that the brain instructs the body, that's where the change happened. That's where the trigger point happened. I said, shit, I got to change things, my head and how I think. And so that changes how I feel. And so, like, when we come back and close the loop on this identity thing, where I was like, I'm no more with this, that was a sequence of events for months. And then finally, one day, I was like, you know what? Identifying with this is just perpetuating the thoughts that I don't need. And so I was like, you got to get rid of the thoughts to stop identifying with this. And I said, well, the first step is stop identifying with it so you don't have the thoughts.
So a big reason for removing your identity from cancer is also because of the healing process that's required here for yourself.
Yeah. Like the more I think about the cancer, the more I talk about the cancer. And don't get me wrong, I think about it a lot and I still talk about it a lot. Right. But I'm slowly, and I was like, well, the first place, I'm going to stop talking about it as much publicly. Like, I just can't do that anymore, right? Because then I get all these people flooding me with messages.
And messages
like,
of sympathy, usually, which you actually don't need either, probably, is it? You need messages of empowerment.
Yeah, it's variety. Yeah. And here's the deal. A lot of times people will message me like, oh man, like I have this and I have that. And like, I empathize with that and I sympathize with that. But when I hear these things, like all it does is continue to create that environment of, oh my God, everybody, it's a lot. And I was like, I just don't want this anymore. I'd get people, and I'm going to say this out loud because it's super annoying, but I get a lot of people who will message me like, oh yeah, like my brother died. Oh, my dad died. Oh, so-and-so died. I'm like, dude, stop telling me this shit. Like, I'm sorry, but stop telling me. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Now, if you like are in the midst of something, obviously I'm like, dude, all right, here we go. I'm happy to help. But at the end of the day, it's about what are you doing in your head to help you heal in your physical body. And so this one guy messaged me after I put that video up. He goes, Chad, that was super disappointing. I think a lot of people are upset. And, I think they're just disappointed. I literally wrote back and I was like, how do you know if 150,000 people are disappointed? Like, did you talk to them? I go look at the comments. 98% of them are like, yeah, man, we're with you on this. And so I said to the guy, and I empathize because I know what it's like and he has something. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. But for me personally, like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm telling you right now, like, the more we sit and fester in the adversity, this is why I now just call adversity, because whether it's cancer or something else, the more you sit and fester in the adversity, the further you're going to get from finding a way to resolve it. That's just how I look at it.
I mean, you've put that into context as well in terms of 10 months ago, you were barely functional, or you were in a very, very bad state, and you're still in the middle of this shitstorm.
Yep.
It's still something that you're navigating. I'm not talking to someone here today who's come out to the side of this yet, and I think that's something.
People are like, I'm a survivor.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm far from a survivor right now. I'm less of a survivor than anything else.
I mean, because you're still going through this battle, and you need the tools and the strategies and again, messages of empowerment, not messages of sympathy or not messages of doom and gloom to get you through this situation, as you know. And you have to become selfish in order to become empowered and to get beyond this, so you can continue to move on and serve and lead and be the man that everyone needs in their life, the people in your life and the people who follow you and the people who are closest to you. So I think it's a very powerful stance. And you mentioned something there earlier as well in terms of putting into context what really matters. what does really matter right now?
Yeah. I mean, look, number one, I tell you right now, the only thing that actually matters is your health. That's like literally, no, if you don't have health, you pretty much can have nothing else, right? And so doing whatever you can to be in the right place physically, mentally, metabolically. Because the minute you don't feel good or you have something like this, you're a worse spouse, you're a worse family member, you're a worse friend, you're a worse colleague, right? Like all these things. And more importantly, your head just goes and let me put it this way. All the things I thought were important really aren't that important. Your health is just the most important. And so like focusing on that, and this is why like part of what I'm doing now is just this concept of becoming elite. I have to become elite metabolically, physically, and mentally to live. And so I'm like, man, nothing matters except for that, right? Because if I can't be those things, then I can't do what all of the other things are important to me, like my wife and my family, and the projects I'm building. Right? None of that's as important as me trying to heal myself. And so it's like, let me put it this way: the thing you think is important, like that's like just driving you, it's probably not that important, right? Some of us, I'd say 98% of us, because myself included before this, right? All the things I thought were important definitely are not important, right? Like me doing well at my job. Like, yeah, sure, it's important, but man, it is not the thing. I can tell you right now, or you becoming like this incredible entrepreneur, right? Like the next Elon Musk, like that's an important in a way, but it's probably not as important as just making sure that you, the human, mentally, metabolically, physically, are actually at the optimal state. Because without that, you could never become Elon Musk. Although I don't know, he's not really metabolically elite,
I
or
don't
physically.
think so, man. Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's his priority. Taking over the world and taking over space seems to be more important to
Yeah,
him. So, ruling the world.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, and as you reflect back now, knowing what you know now, having going through this situation in your life, do you
yeah,
think it was potentially because you didn't focus on what really mattered back then?
yeah, man. So the entire keynote that I did yesterday, right? The title of it is "Finding the Sustainable YOLO." Finding the sustainable YOLO. Everybody wants to YOLO, right? So YOLO, for the obviously, if you live on a rock, then you don't know what it is, but it stands for you only live once, right? And basically, YOLO is just really a never-ending sense of dopamine, right? That rush of like fun, adventure, spontaneous. But then the sustainable part, right? Like, well, if you continue to do YOLO all the time, seeking dopamine, right? All these, yeah, you're going on the random trip, you do the thing and buy the shoes, whatever, buy the car. Like, if you do that nonstop to keep getting that dopamine, like, you might go broke, you might get divorced, you might get fired, you might get something because you just can't. It's just not. Frankly, it's not possible. But then this idea of sustainable, that means maintainable, right? Sustainable means can you maintain it? And really what people are looking for is maintainable dopamine. That's it, right? So that's really what the sustainable YOLO is. And like I did this presentation and it's just like I go through all the things that I was doing because I did have a vision for myself. I had a great upbringing, blue collar, middle class, super loving family, no trauma there, right? Like it was incredible. 2-parent family, like people would wish they had that. Weren't rich, weren't poor, And but then I go to college and then I have an experience in Australia and I'm like, man, that's what I want with my life, which is essentially I rode my bicycle for the Australians. It's my push bike from Brisbane to Sydney, and everybody's like, "That's wild." That's basically it took me 14 days, 8 hours a day of just riding my bike there, and that experience said to me, I was like, "Dude, there's something about this world. I just want to explore it and share it with everybody." And that's when I wanted to do stuff like Nat Geo, Discovery, and like similar to Anthony Bourdain, not the same, but stuff that they're doing. But I was like, let me be a real estate millionaire first, and then I'll go build stuff or go do that. And like started out great, crushed it in real estate 2005 to 7. Then there was 2008, the Great Recession hit, lost everything, started over. But instead of like being like, you know what? Go be more authentic me and figure out how to get into Discovery or National Geographic or stuff like Parts Unknown with Bourdain or whatever. Instead of doing that, I was like, well, I'm going to keep going in this world of startup and SaaS and tech and all this stuff. And I did. I kept going. And I had some good successes, right? Owned a few agencies, worked at incredible companies. But every single time I was just like, I'm driving down this road, like 100 miles an hour. Now, most Americans don't drive a manual car, but I have 3 old trucks that are all manual. And I think you drive manual in Ireland. Most people in Ireland probably do, right? So you know that you can't drive down the freeway at 100 miles an hour or whatever, 120 kilometers an hour in third gear. You just can't do that. You're going to burn that thing out. And that's essentially what I was doing. The worst part about it is I'm driving third gear in 100 miles an hour, looking at the other road I wanted to be on. So not only am I burning it out every day, but I'm also looking at a different place that I wanted to be in the first place. And so I'll call that, there's a lot of stress involved, right? Specifically inauthenticity stress. Like I'm inauthentic to what I should have been doing. And so that inauthenticity was always like, when am I going to get to the thing? Instead of just doing the thing. I made really good money in real estate when it was good. And then I lost it all. But when I was making really good money, the idea of like starting over and going back to like, 25 grand a year was like, heck no, man, I just made so much money. Like, why would I do that? And sometimes when you look back you can't look back and wish something else, even though we often do it. I often look back and I go, I don't know. I would have happily taken 25 grand to work at Nat Geo, right? As an assistant, running coffee, because eventually I probably would have got to somewhere else instead of ending up where I am today. Now, that being said, you can't look at this journey and be like, oh, I wish I did something else. You actually have to look at this and say, oh, I was gifted this. What am I doing with it? Right. So long and short, to wrap that up is simply, I was driving at 100 miles an hour in third gear, looking at a different road I wanted to be on. And basically, it's the same thing as running in a hamster wheel. And cancer was essentially the stick in the spoke that took me flying off of this thing.
There's a lot of people on that motorway, isn't there, though? You weren't on your own, driving 100 miles an hour in third gear. And they're stuck. They're stuck in that because, again, it seems to be some sort of societal expectation or family expectation or conditioning from the past or comparing yourself to someone else who seems to have this very grandiose, very successful, very happy life that's often portrayed now in front of our eyes 24/7 on social media, and you're driven towards this and driven towards that, and never truly understanding how you got on that road in the first place and why you're stuck here. So again, if you're to go back and perhaps sit in the passenger seat of that car whilst you're driving down that road in third gear and 100 miles an hour, what would you say to yourself? What would you say to the driver there?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say in this analogy here, it was, hey man, can we just pull off to the side of the road for a minute and just kind of assess where we're going? Just let's pull off for a minute. It's not gonna, pull off for 15 minutes and just let's take a breath and see like really where we want to be going, right? Because we think we want to go this way. We think we want to, that it's going to bring us somewhere else. But I would tell that person to just hold up. And it's actually what I talk about in this keynote. So they're always like, well, what do I do? Well, the first thing is this. So let's say this. You pull off to the side of the road for 15 minutes. Okay. Now, that 15 minutes in this analogy is important because you can have a 15-minute conversation. But in the crux of life, like in real life here, Really what you're looking for is this pattern interrupt. You need something, right, to pattern interrupt that. And that's what I would be saying to the driver. I'd be like, hey, let's pull off for 15 minutes. Let's talk about it. But in life, you need a full pattern interrupt. So there's two things on this. Let me go back a step, though. You first have to find out if you're actually on the wrong road. And the easiest way for me to explain that, right, is the hamster wheel or a maze, right? A hamster wheel or a maze. No one in there, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, hey, man, I just want to go run a hamster wheel. Never ever heard that, right? I'd never just want to go run in circles, right? But I have heard people say, hey, man, I just did this maze. I just did this maze with my hand. Like, people like mazes in the Midwest where I'm from, right? We do corn mazes. So you like run through the corn and it's like a maze and it's super sick. But you can do a maze on a piece of paper. Some people do mazes on the back of a magazine because why? It's fun, it's interesting, and it's cool. But no one's like, let me play this hamster wheel game. No one's ever said that. So the first thing you have to find out is, are you in a hamster wheel or are you in a maze? Because mazes, even if you bounce off walls and go the wrong way and all that stuff, it's still a fun game. You're interested. Yeah, it can be frustrating, but at some point, you come out at the other end, or at least there's a way to come out at the other end. You may not get there, but at least there's a way. On a hamster wheel, there's no way off. There's no way off unless you stop running or there's a stick in the spoke. So that's the first thing. Find out if you're on a hamster wheel or in a maze. And if you're in a hamster wheel, if you're in a maze, you're good. Just have fun. But if you're, and by the way, it's a 98-2 rule, right? They say the 80-20, right? 80, it's always an 80-20 rule. 98-2. My hunch is that 98% of people are all the way on a hamster wheel or mostly in it. That's my take.
The hamster wheel as well is very mundane and boring. It doesn't bring challenge. And I think, I work mostly with men, and it's probably mostly men who are listening to us right now. I believe men thrive in challenge and competition. So the maze offers that. It offers the challenge because...
Yeah, every single time.
That.
So you think about it this way, right? Going back to that, yeah, people aren't challenged. And what happens when you're on a hamster wheel when it's boring and unchallenging? Yeah, I don't know. You drink some beers a little bit more. You have more cocktails. You do things to numb yourself on this, right? You're looking for the dopamine. And a beer, alcohol, is eventually dopamine.
Yeah,
right?
you find your thrill somewhere else. Yeah.
But the point here, that's it. So my point is that's the first step. But if you're in a maze, you don't have time for booze. You're running around. You're like, dude, this is super fun. This is sick, right? Again, not always fun, but at least you know it's a challenge and there's a way to get out the other end. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, if you are on a hamster wheel, this is where we're coming back to like pulling off to the side of the road, right? If you're on a hamster wheel, you need to pattern interrupt yourself. Cancer was the stick in my wheel, and that's not fun. You have the choice, right? Many of you have the choice to put your own stick in the wheel. So when it comes to that, like, here's the example. We did this incredibly, like, I wanted to work for Nat Geo, but we built this TV show concept in May. It's called Supply Run. And so it's because I love to travel so much, my brother and I designed this thing. It took us years to get to this point to figure out what actually works. It's the combination of Amazing Race, Anthony Bourdain, and Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, meaning Amazing Race, there's a race element to it, so it's exciting. Anthony Bourdain, a little bit of culture and interaction with the people, right? So that you can have some down-to-earth conversations. And then number 3 is this idea of Mike Rowe and Dirty Jobs. Mike Rowe just did the thing, right? It's called Dirty Jobs. I'm going to go do the job. And so that was us saying, hey, we're going to go do the thing, interact with people, and we're going to do a race out of it. That's the concept. But the thing is we would bring somebody. So we had somebody apply and we brought them along. And in this case, his name was JD. You can go watch it. His name's JD. He lives in a Florida gated community, and we laugh about this all the time, but he lives in a Florida gated community, never left the country. And then we take him to Kathmandu, Nepal, into the Himalayas, up to the border of Pakistan and India, right? To basically Kashmir. So somebody who lives in a Florida gated community, never left, all of a sudden is going to these places. How big of a change is that for that individual?
Yeah.
Right? It's quite a bit. But here's the deal. JD was on a hamster wheel. And you can watch it in the show. They explain it, and we explain it in episode 1 and 2. But it's like he's getting beaten down. He's got all these things. He's lost his spark. His wife literally says on the show, he's lost his spark, and he's looking for a pattern interrupt. And so when we look at the supply run, a pattern interrupt is not taking a weekend to go sit in the woods or a weekend to go sit in Cancun and like go to all inclusive. You need something that's going to be long enough and a sharp turn enough and something that isn't about you, right? So in this case, supply run is 3 weeks long. It's about delivering supplies to a community that could use them to support their life better, right? And most importantly, he's completely out of his element because he's never left Florida gated community, right? That's a legitimate pattern interrupt. And he says it, like literally says in one of our trailers, in the middle of it, literally says, how does one go back to normal life after this? That was 10 days in, right? And already he's like, oh my God, how do you go back to normal life? The pattern interrupt has triggered, right? That's one way to do it. You can do it multiple ways, but it's got to be long enough, different enough, and even hard enough. That's
you talk about the sustainable YOLO, and
yep,
this gentleman, he had an absolute epiphany when you took him off track and off the hamster wheel, and he had perhaps a YOLO experience. How was he, or how is he sustaining that in his life now? Like, what's the outcome of this experience?
Oh man, great question. And it's like, it's one of those things where when you do something like that, usually the changes might show up 3 to 4, 6 months, 7 months later, right? Because it's not like this immediate thing, but it shows up in your life some way because you're like, wow, because of that, I now am looking at a perspective this way 9 months later. And it was crazy. When we were on the trip, like literally we had to rush to our next spot because he didn't have a job at the time. He literally got laid off right before he went. And I'm like, wow, talk about doubling down on like just things being hard. Okay. And he's got a family and a kid. And he's like, oh my God, now I'm supposed to go away for 3 weeks and do this thing. Right. And kudos to him for like pushing through and knowing how important it was for him. And so we were rushing to the next spot. I think it was like day 17 or something, because we had to get him to like not a hospital, like a hotel or something, so he could get internet to do an interview for a new job. So he's literally interviewing for a new job while we're doing this TV show concept, trying to deliver supplies. And the guy on the goes, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm on supply run, sir." And the guy's like, "What is that?" And so then he explains what he's doing. And all of a sudden there's this rapport because he's being different than everybody else that this guy's interviewing. And the guy's like, what? Long story short, he gets back, he finishes interviews, he gets the job, right? Amazing. He lives in Florida. I live in California. 3 days ago, literally 3 days ago. Yeah, not 3 days. Last Thursday, so about a week ago, I'm sitting in my office looking out the window, and this guy walks by my window. And I'm like, who the hell is this on my property? It's the guy, it's JD. And I'm like, wait a second, dude, you live in Florida. I'm in California. What the hell are you doing? He goes, I was here for work, decided to stop by, like unannounced. And so I was like, holy shit. So we started talking. I was like, how's things going? How's the job? He goes, dude, I got to tell you, my mental fortitude is completely different. He goes, it's completely different. And like, I'm in this job. I love this job. I'm around the right people. He goes, but the way that I operate because of the trip, it's just different. And like, he can't even put his words to it, right? Because you can feel a sense of difference. So this literally was a week ago. So to answer the question, like, you never know when it's going to happen. But like the fact that he showed up my house unannounced and was like, dude, my life has changed. I don't know how to describe it, but I look at things differently. And there's a sense of, quote unquote, the old JD, right? A little bit of that spark is back. He's excited about his job. He's excited about what he did. He's excited about what he learned. Now, here's the deal. Obviously, that's going to wear off at some point, and he's got to do something more, right? So I think he's going through that process. But I mean, frankly, when he says, look, my mental fortitude is increased because of the trip, that is kind of what we were looking for. And I think he'll probably continue to get these experiences over time.
If you were to describe the greatest outcome that someone could achieve from doing something this, such as a pattern interrupt, something as extreme as what JD did, perhaps, what would that be? Like, what do you believe it is about this pattern interrupt that has a lasting impact on someone's life, even from your own experience?
Yeah, because I do these a lot, right? This was my life. The reason why we brought JD and filmed the show is because if my brother and I wouldn't filmed it, no one would watch it because they're like, oh yeah, this is what you do. This is what you do. But you bring JD, who's like most of America, and they're like, oh my God, I relate to JD. They don't relate to me and my brother. They relate to JD, right? So if I heard the question right, it's kind of like, what can people do outside of supply runs or this trip? Like, can you restate
what is it
that
that shifts in the paradigm shift? What exactly shifts in this experience for them?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, good question. So I think the simple word is just the word perspective, right? Most people listening to this are likely in some type of first world country where things are pretty darn good for you, right? And you may have an adversity, right? I have an adversity for sure, right? We all have something. But when you go and do something for somebody else that has a little bit less than you, right? And you help support their lives in a better way, all of a sudden you realize it's not just about you anymore, and that perspective changes. On top of it, you might also realize how good you actually have it. So the community we drop supplies at, it's called Saralbatori. It's a community that's way up in the Himalayas, and like I said, close to Kashmir. And they don't need anything more from us, frankly, right? They love their way of life. Okay, so it's not about like we're gonna like improve their lives significantly. All we're going to do is support it. And when we talk to their people there, we're like, hey, what can we bring you, right? Because even though they love their way of life, there are things that will help. And like one of them was like, hey, if you brought us a hand loom, right, then the women here can make more stuff to sell more things, right? Because we can't just go and buy a hand loom. Like we could do it, but like we have to conserve our resources. And mind you, Saralbatori is a 3-hour walk from cell service, right? So if you get hurt up there, right, we had global rescue just in case something happened. My brother and I both got sick. And if something happened, global rescue would fly in a helicopter. But you still got to go 2 miles to the helicopter pad. So it's kind of like when you're up there and you're realizing I live in a Florida gated community, right, or in Ventura, California, and then all of a sudden these people got to walk 3 hours, right, to get cell service to call for help. Like you got it pretty good. Sure, part of it's their choice, part of it's not. But hey, you know what? They're probably happier than most people here in America, frankly. And so it's like that's the shift. It's perspective. And there's a quote by Mark Twain. It's like, narrow-mindedness, bigotry, and prejudice would be basically solved if people would get out of their little corner of the world. And if you're in your little corner of the world, aka a fishbowl, right, you have the perspective of all the other fish in your little fishbowl. And when you leave the fishbowl and you go and do something like that, you get different perspective and you realize, oh, wow, things aren't as what the fishbowl says. And now your mind shifts and who you are shifts, and likely you find ways to find better things in life.
There'll be gratitude, exactly.
AKA gratitude.
That's what was coming to my own mind as well in terms of, how good we have it, and we take it all for granted. And even as you mentioned there at the beginning about your health, we take that for granted. You know, what is it? The
big time.
What the man who's healthy wants 100 things, the man who's unhealthy just wants one thing, you know.
That's it. Oh my God, it's such a true statement, man. I don't think about anything but that one thing now.
Yeah, and that's a perspective change for sure. You talked as well about being on this hamster wheel, and there's men listening to this, people listening to this right now who are stuck in that hamster wheel or stuck on that motorway in third gear going 100 miles an hour. I'd gather that when you were on that motorway, burning yourself out, you weren't aware of the consequences, or you didn't even know that you were on this road towards destruction, let's say. So if there is someone on a hamster wheel, or if there is someone burning themselves out right now, how can they know?
Huh. Man, that is tough, because sometimes we justify, right, the means to the end. Like, well, I'm just going to do this thing because it'll eventually get me there, right? And that's what I did. I was like, well, I'm gonna be in e-commerce. Oh, I'm gonna be in real estate. I'm gonna be in payments, because eventually it's gonna just pay me the money to get me to there. And guess what? It didn't happen, because the Great Recession of 2008, the couple startups I worked at didn't work out that well. The one place I went, the things didn't, things just didn't work out the way they were supposed to go in my head. Like I said, I did well, but it didn't translate into what I thought it was going to be. And so this whole idea of the hamster wheel versus the maze, like first and foremost, if you had a vision for your life, right? If you had something different in your life, then you're probably on a hamster wheel. Like I thought things would be different. That doesn't mean like, hey, like I thought I'd be a rock star in front of 100,000 people, right? Like that honestly, not everybody can do that, right? But what it might mean is like I should have been in music no matter what. That's the difference. Like I made Netter, I thought I was gonna be something like Anthony Bourdain, and not everybody can be somebody like Anthony Bourdain. And so, like, even if I was shooting for that, even if I was aiming to be like an Anthony Bourdain, that doesn't mean I was going to become it. But it does mean that I could have been working on the show as an assistant. I could have been traveling the world, experiencing the things that would have come if I was a host, right? And I would have been just perfectly good. So it's like, if you are sitting here and you're like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I was always intending to be this. Like, for example, like not everybody can be a professional athlete. But I tell you what, there's a lot. Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. He was a player, but he wasn't very good, right? But he ended up being one of the best coaches of all time, Hall of Famer, right? Maybe a debate to be the best of all time. There's plenty of people who are in that arena. I've read stories about somebody who's like, well, I left the pro sports and I went and got a job that pays better. I went and got a job that gave me this. And then they just sit there for 3 years and they're like, F this. And they go back and become the lowest level, like scout for a team, right? Or they just become a high school head coach or even a high school assistant coach. And like, I'd rather be around this than these corporate people, and those people are way happier. I think about myself a lot on this, because this is exactly what happened. I sold $10 million in real estate in 2007. That's a lot of money to sell. That's a lot of real estate to sell when you're 23 years old. One of my clients literally said to me, Chad, like, why aren't you just going to go work for Nat Geo? Literally said that to me. And I was like, because I'm selling real estate. I just sold $10 million in real estate. Why would I change, right? And they're like, well, at least go talk to this guy. So I went and talked to this guy who worked at Nat Geo. And he was like, look, I mean, we don't really have much. I mean, you can be an assistant to the photographer. Maybe, I can get you that. I can get you an assistant to the photographer. But it pays $30,000 a year. And I go, I just sold $10 million in real estate, man. There's no way. I just got to do a couple more years of this and I'll build the next Nat Geo. And I look back at that moment and I say, how would things have been different had I just said, you know what, that's the authentic me, I'll take that cut, right? So if somebody's in that position or had that memory or that moment, you can change it up before some adversity changes it for you.
It's the money trap, though, isn't it? And then you start
right,
living above your means, which means you need more money. to live within those means, and then
Yep.
it's a never-ending chase just to pay your bills and keep up appearances.
I own a house in California now, man. You can imagine what that's like. You own a house in Southern California, and it's just like, wow. Like, does it, there was a moments when I first got diagnosed when all I wanted to do was just sell the place and move out and just be like, I'm done with this. It's an anchor. It's preventing me from these things. But that's because I was making good money in all these other places and doing things. And now I'm kind of like, I trade that all in.
How would you get out of that trap, though?
Once again, yeah. When you say out of
I
that trap, like
mean,
currently, like now?
the grip of money. Yeah, you like again going back there to what you talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
only a few minutes ago about selling 10 million in real estate, and money was a big driver then, because money opens up incredible opportunities for you, and it's a life changer, and then you're taking that and offered a job which you would potentially love, but it's $30,000 a year. Ugh. So it's passion versus income, or passion versus the money.
I think the problem is with my youth, and like some people are better than this, younger. But I couldn't see the long game. I couldn't see the long game. All I saw was, I made 80%. I made so 30,000 was like 80% of what I made or something, right? Like I can't remember the exact amount, but I was like, I couldn't see the long game but this is where you're going to be happy, and in time you could probably re-get that, but you'll be doing it in a way where it feels like you're constantly in a flow state, just like, this is it, man. Instead of chasing. But the problem is, as a quote unquote entrepreneur, one that likes to try and build things and do things, my thought was, what are you talking about? I'm just going to go build Nat Geo. I didn't know that the Great Recession was around the corner. I didn't know that. So I don't know, man. It's a hard thing. And like the thing I say here, it's like, the house, the property, like early on, it felt like a weight. And same thing with this cancer. If I look at it wrong, right, I'm going to go back to that moment where I had that fork in the road, that decision where I'd say, take the Nat Geo job or keep going with real estate. I often look at that fork in the road and go, if I would adjust, and then I have to stop myself, because part of the neural nets that I'm pruning is something like that, right? Like one of the neural nets that I recognized in this mental work is simply like, I wasted my time on earth. I wasted it. That's a really destructive thought when you're trying to heal yourself and try and figure out how to get past this. And so when I was doing the mental work, I recognized that, you know what? I was born for this shit. I was just born for it, man. This is the thing. So that moment of feeling like, don't get me wrong, there's days when I'm like, I don't want to be born for this. Like, I don't want it. Right? And it definitely took a while to actually think it and believe it and feel it. But now when I say I was born for this shit, I don't look, when I truly believe I was born for this shit, right? I don't look back at that fork in the road anymore and say, I wish I would have. I said, no, man, I was born for this. There's a reason for this, right? And it could be just a coping mechanism, right? Especially some people are listening like, oh, well, that's just how you're telling yourself tricks, right? There are days when I think that too, so don't worry. But like, then I think about us talking about this. How many people are listening to this right now, and because of me talking about it, might make a change? Might. Or at least planted the seed, and 6 months later, they do make the change. That's when I go, this new life is saving lives. And that changes everything,
Yeah. What was you said? That death brings life.
Yeah, man.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it is, man. Death brings life. And a lot of times that's death to self, right? It sounds super, spiritual, if you will. I'm not even a spiritual person at that point, but like it brings life. I mean, look, one of the other neural nets, right? One of the neural nets I got back from a half Ironman. I did a half Ironman in Hawaii in June of last year. And I'm on the flight home and I'm doing this mental work. I'm deep in this black space, man. Just looking. It basically deep in that black space means I'm thinking, I'm looking at my thoughts, but without the chemical reactions, right? I shut off the body so that I can literally look at the thoughts and analyze them without the emotion attached. And so that's called metacognition, thinking about thinking. And so I'm looking and I'm realizing, like, what's the phrase what's undermining my healing right now? And the simple one I recognized was, well, cancer's killing me. When you think that cancer is killing you every single day, you live in a shitty way. And so I was like, well, what's the difference? Like, what's the other side, right? And sometimes it's the exact opposite, and other times it's just it's a version of the exact opposite. But in this case, I realized in that dark space, and that I was like, oh, dude, that's not serving me. So I changed it. It's like, cancer saved me. And like when you first say it, you're like, dude, you're an idiot. There's no way this is the dumbest thing you could obviously come up with. But you work through that. And I sit there and I was like, cancer, save me. Cancer is saving me. Cancer, save me. And I'm going through and I'm just repeating it over and over and over. And eventually you're creating the new neural net. That's the sprouting of a new neural net. And then like you say it enough times. I don't know, maybe I said it 100 times. Maybe I don't even know how many. But I said a lot of times before all of a sudden my body goes, oh, maybe I believe that. And that's all I needed to feel, because if my body feels what I actually think there and believes that, then eventually I can come out of it. And so by the end of that session, literally I was almost like hyperventilating, because I'm like, oh my God, I actually believe that shit. And so it's like death brings life. Cancer is killing me, but it saved me. And I have a chance right now to do something with it. And I don't know if that's going to be another 6 months, another 6 years, another 60 years. I don't know. I want 60. I like it here a lot, But that's what I mean by death brings life. When something dies, there's something new somewhere else. And cancer basically killed the old version of me. I mean, obviously, I'm still me, right? I still have my personality and stuff. But at the end of the day, cancer killed me, killed the old version of me. And it's growing a new one.
And a better one.
Yes.
Chad. Wow. That's all I got to say. It's been an incredibly deep and moving and inspirational conversation, man. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for all you do, man, because you could very easily just, take this diagnosis and hide away and, not use it to empower other people or to help other people through their struggles and their difficulties, be it with, again, as I said, a physical or emotional trauma in their life. So thank you for that, man.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I still
you need
shy
those
away
moments
and I
for
hide,
sure.
man.
Yeah. We all do, but also you still show up, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man, and I'm
I
very
appreciate it,
excited for
Gavin.
what's to come.
Thank you.
This
Thank you.
part of your life is just part one. Part two is coming up. So, or maybe it's part two and part three is coming up.
Thank you.
But you know what I mean. And I'm looking forward to it, man.
I do
so,
know what you mean.
Yeah, thank you for this. Now, for everyone
Thank you,
listening
Gavin.
to this podcast, where can they find you, reach out to you, follow your brilliant work, become inspired? Let them know.
Yeah, the first place is go to becomingelite.co, becomingelite.co, and then just sign up on the email there, right? Because that's where I do most of these updates. Right now, it says a lot of cancer updates, but we're going to be updating the process of becoming metabolically, physically, and mentally elite. So I'll be documenting more of that. Or you can just follow me on Instagram. I haven't posted in a while because I'm kind of redoing some things with the way I operate. So you can go to just Chad Vanags on Instagram or even LinkedIn. And there you can see if you wanted to watch Supply Run.
Yeah,
I have stuff
brilliant,
linked to that.
Definitely worth a watch.
So you can see that.
I will add those links below. Cool. And Chad, thank you again. Stay strong, my man.
Appreciate it, Gavin.